the evolution from being investors after being founders was gradual, but there were certainly moments where we recognized that dual state. And it created communication challenges because to investors we had to communicate as investors, and to employees and customers we had to convey a different role. It wasn't very difficult to strike an ethical balance with those, because as long as we maintained a core level of sincerity and honesty, and we went out of our way to be very forthright with people when some situation was going on that people didn't understand. The lessons we've learned are, absolutely we work with people that have a cultural compatibility. So when we talk to, we've got angels in our new company, we have our first venture capitalists in our new company. When we went around talking to the individuals, the angels are the same ones we've worked with in the past, but the venture capitalists, when we talk to the firms that we didn't have that sense of trust with, we just walk out.
When we started, obviously we were bootstrapping the company, and that seemed like the best way to do it. We had customers, we were bringing in revenue. At the same time, we were able to support ourselves because we were still continued to work for Varian, and Varian was supporting us in the project. Eventually, that's just, you only have so much bandwidth, and you really need to invest all of your time in a new venture. If a corporate job takes X amount of time, a new venture takes X times, some multiple. So we were really burning the candle at both ends, and we realized that. Working for Varian at the same time allowed us to pay ourselves and not have to take investment in. But then if you're going to make that jump and build a really, put everything into the company, the time it needs. When you take money in, obviously it's no longer just you, me, and Wayne. There are other folks involved as well. Does that change things? Well, it does, in that you have to consider what are those folks' wants and desires from investing in your company. You have to consider them. But Wayne and I always thought of those investors much in the same way we thought of ourselves, as we were investors in this too. We were putting our time, our effort, our money in. So I think we've had great relationships with our investors because we think of ourselves as just another investor. We don't build a lifestyle company. Some folks are out there and say, boy, wouldn't this be great if I could build this company and give myself a fantastic salary. That was never our interest. We never gave ourselves a fantastic salary. In fact, our salary was usually coming from money we were, scraping together wherever we could find it, and often with unpaid bills on credit cards. So we weren't building a lifestyle company, so we were never at odds with the investors' needs. We were always very aligned with them. We thought of ourselves as investors. All along, Wayne and I, again, thinking as investors, knew that if you're going to grow this, you're going to have to give up a certain amount of control to those folks that can contribute in different areas. And so I think we knew that from the very beginning, from day one. And so it wasn't probably as difficult for us to give up control, because we wanted a successful company that did what it was designed to do, affect a real change in our market and industry. And I think others might not realize that when they get in. And entrepreneurs who start and think, well, this is just my thing. And that's probably self-limiting for them if they don't realize they need to give up some measure of control to grow the business. Now, you can have a smaller business. I'm going to have a sole proprietorship. I'm going to own the whole thing. I'm not going to take any investment dollars in. And that might be great for some people. I think each individual has to decide what they really want to do and what they have to give up in order to do it.
The question is, how do you actually get all that to occur with no dollars? And they hadn't really thought through, because you're right, they wanted to bootstrap it, and it's always questionable whether you can bootstrap something, particularly if the field is one where you think there will be some competition, because you're going to be in a race. You're going to be in a race for investors, you're going to be in a race for customers, you're going to be a race for employees. All the stakeholders of the business effectively are competing then among various companies who create the category.
Sure, it's possible to bootstrap, but it's going to take, unless you have your own, wealth, it's going to take a lot longer. And in the meantime, unless you've got really powerful intellectual property, someone's going to come along, and a well-financed organization is going to come along and take you out. So yeah, it's possible. And a lot of companies, I saw a company yesterday with really a very interesting approach to the electronic health record / pay for performance. And I would advise them not to go out and take money down, because I think they're so early that any money they take down is going to dilute them at an early stage, so that at the end they'll have nothing. So these are guys I would say, okay, I think this is something you should bootstrap as long as you possibly can, get some data, and then go out and look for money. They never got out of the bootstrap mentality, which was, we're working with our own money or our families or friends' money, and so we're trying to husband every dollar, and we're trying to keep the burn rate as low as possible. And then once you start hiring up, of course, you can find some true believers who will say, yeah, I'll work for stock, or I'll work, but most people can't afford to do that. I mean, eating becomes a nasty habit.
One of the things I liked about Wade and Jeff is that they were really sincere people, and when we gave them the money, I felt that they were going to do the darndest to spend it wisely and make this happen. And I told them on several occasions, look, sometimes these things don't work out here, but I'm not going to take it personally if it doesn't work out. I mean, I made an investment, and I felt that they, perhaps would worry too much about losing the money. But when an angel investor invests, you got to understand he's going to lose it, and the entrepreneurs also got to understand they got to spend it wisely. But they got to spend it and not stay up all night worrying about losing everything, because if they stay up all night, they will lose everything. They got to get some sleep.
Taking out a loan, asking for money, gee, it's time to cash in the 401k because we're now to this point we have to pay back a certain loan. We always said, okay, with this amount of debt, can we still recover from it? Are we doing something that if we lost it all, is there a way to come out of it again? Now, you don't just at the beginning realize that 5 steps down the road it's going to be hundreds of thousands of dollars, a second mortgage, your kids' college fund, your retirement fund. I mean, that comes along gradually. Or, maybe I didn't want to think that far ahead of it could go that far. It didn't seem at the beginning that it was going to ever be that extreme. It always seemed like, oh, we've got this little product and we just need to sell a few. And then when all the financing got bigger and bigger, we just had to weigh the benefits of, if we stick it out, can we stick it out a little longer, knowing what's down the road? I had faith in him that this idea was doable. And just always, but I think always still being practical. Can we recover? How many years will it take us to work off these debts if it all falls apart?
When Barry and I started the company, we wanted to have a rich culture, a rich community where we supported each other. We wanted to build a friendship in a community where we basically are friends forever, and we still are. And it's a wonderful group of terrific generalists and smart people who are customer oriented. It was when poor Kenji was on the ground saying they're trying to kill us that I realized I had to make a choice. Do I want to be folded into a company that is more about getting the horsepower out of people, or do I want a culture of innovation, a culture of a stronger culture that's invested in the process and the people and in change management practices and such? We were between a rock and a hard place, and when he floated that balloon, I said, I will find the smoothest way to land so that we retain a relationship and respect that we are going down different paths and have different cultures. And it didn't occur to me at the time that he was basically going to cherry pick from our employees which ones he wanted to sign on to Neoforma. And if he was going to do that, how do I feel about that ethically? And if I feel okay about that ethically, what kind of compensation would we get? Are we a recruiting house? Are we going to be recruiting and training the right people so that he can hire them to work in-house? And so I never really, because I was new to business, I never really considered those questions. To have a customer basically poach our staff was something I took very personally. And now, being a stronger business thinking person, I said, you just have to have a different mindset about what your role is and how it fits into everything else.